Welcome. My name is Lisa Ransom. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity, or NAPE. On behalf of NAPE's Public Policy Committee, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us for today's webinar entitled Preparing for the 2020 Census, Why It Matters to Education and What You Can Do. In this time of social distancing, the one thing we know that we can all do together is respond to the 2020 census. Today, we will hear from the U.S. Census Bureau about the importance of taking the 2020 census, the need for strong community engagement, its impact on funding, education, and workforce training programs that we all work so hard to support, updates on the census process in light of COVID-19, and what we can do to ensure that our communities fully participate in getting the word out and making sure that we are counted. Our presenters for this session are Jenny Aramoni, National Partnership Portfolio Manager, and Kimberly Glasgow, Marketing Specialist for Statistics and Schools, both with the U.S. Census Bureau. After their presentation, we will have time to take a few questions, followed by closing comments from NAPE's Public Policy Committee Chair, Michael Tinsley. The power of responding to the 2020 census reminds us, we fund what we count and we count what we care about. By responding to the 2020 census, the power is in your hands. Before we begin, I want to share a bit of technical housekeeping. All lines for this session will be muted. Please keep your microphones muted throughout the webinar. If you have questions for any of the presenters, please add them to the chat box. And with that, let's get started.
Thank you, Lisa. That was great feedback. And thank you to NAPE for inviting us to do this webinar. We are really glad to do this. Next slide, please. Again, my name is Jenny Aramoni, and I will be talking about the overview and operations of the 2020 census. My colleague, Kimberly Glasgow, will be talking about the census in schools. Next, please. So here are some of the highlights of the 2020 census. The government has a lot of responsibilities, but doing the census is required by our Constitution. Remember that Census Day was April 1st, 2020. This is our reference date, not the deadline. Your data cannot be shared with anyone, including other federal agencies, and your responses can only be used to produce statistics. It has never been easier to respond on your own, whether online, over the phone, or by mail, all without having to meet a census taker. Next, please. So why is the 2020 census important? It is about power, money, and representation. Some states will gain or lose seats in the House of Representatives. The data are used to redraw congressional and state districts. Census data informs how billions of dollars in federal funds are distributed for programs and services for the next 10 years, such as health clinics, disaster recovery initiatives, and other critical programs in education, and my colleague will go over that in her slides. Businesses also use that data to plan to where to invest, such as where to open the next restaurant, where to open the next urgent care facility. In fact, the impact of COVID-19 underscores the need for securing census data. And accurate census data could mean more public health facilities supported by multilingual staff near where you live for out-of-the-blue emergencies like pandemics. Next, please. So as of Monday, May 11, over 86 million households have self-responded to the census, and that is about 58% of the households in the US. We still have a long way to go, and we need your help with some of these hard-to-count populations. Young children under the age of 5 was the most unaccounted in 2010. We missed over 1 million children in the last census. So please remind your members to put the children on the phone. Our research shows that these hard-to-count populations have low willingness to participate in the 2020 census. Some of the reasons why are there is a language barrier, they don't trust the government, and they don't know how census benefits them. Currently, we have over 300,000 local and national organizations, such as NAPE, sign up to help us motivate their communities to respond. Next, please. So let's talk about safety and security. Again, the responses to the 2020 census are safe, secure, and protected by federal law. It will only be used for statistical purposes and cannot be shared with any other federal agencies and courts. Census employees, including myself and Kimberly, are required to protect your personal information. Violating this means a penalty of 5 years in prison and/or a $250,000 fine. A fun fact, we released census data after 72 years, and the next one, 1950 census data, will be available in 2022. Next, please. So this is our mail-out schedule. By now, over 95% of the households should receive a letter inviting them to respond online, by phone, or by mail with a paper questionnaire. And the other 5%, census employees will only leave a questionnaire package at the door. These are mostly households in rural areas and people with PO boxes. Next, please. If you haven't received your letter, this is what you should expect. The envelope will have a return address from our National Processing Center in Jeffersonville, Illinois. It will be addressed to your address, not to a name. The letter will include your census ID number that you will use to respond online or by phone. This ID is tied to your address. You get a lot of questions about this ID number. And if you lose your ID, you can still respond by putting your address in. Next, please. So the questions asked, we will ask basic questions such as how many people are living in your house on April 1st, 2020, whether the home is owned or rented, the name, sex, age, date of birth, race of each person. Next, please. Okay, so who to count? The 2020 census will count everyone living in the U.S. and the 5 U.S. territories. With or without a mailbox, you will be counted. Only one person needs to respond for the whole house. If you move into a new residence on April 1st, 2020, you should count your stuff at that residence. And then children who split their time between homes, and if they are living with you on April 1st, you should count them. Newborns, even those born on April 1st and was living in a hospital, they should still be included. For others who are living in special housing, we have a special operation called group quarters. These group quarters are owned and managed by a third party. The Census Bureau assists group quarters administrators in responding to the census on the behalf of the residents to ensure a complete and accurate census count. Group quarters are sending us their data electronically right now. So on-campus students, this is a challenge for us right now. We want to count college students as if there is no pandemic going on. Students living on campus, but they are at home with their parents due to COVID-19 will still be counted as part of this group quarter process. We are working with campuses to transmit us the students' data electronically. If the students live off campus and somewhere else right now, they can still go online and respond by inputting the address instead of the ID code. And then to remember to include all their roommates. Next, please. This is what the internet staff response page will look like. This will be open until the end of October, but please don't wait until then to respond. We have the top other languages supported, and you can toggle between the languages throughout the questionnaire. For most people, it would take less than 10 minutes. You must complete the questionnaire once you begin. If you leave the questionnaire and return later, you will have to start over. Next, please. So these are the languages that we have supported for 2020 census. The languages are listed from order of need, from top to bottom, left to right. These languages were determined by using the 2016 American Community Survey estimates to identify language groups with a high number of limited English-speaking households. On the left-hand side, you will see the top non-English languages for the internet staff response and the phone assistance. On the right side, you will see the 59 languages we have support through video and print guides. And you can find all these guides in the language link below. Next, please. For those who do not feel comfortable responding online or on paper, they can call in one of our lines listed here. Next, please. So the non-response follow-up. This is the most expensive component of the census. And we have adjusted our schedule to according to the climate and anticipate starting this in-person operation in August. And really the best way to avoid a visit from a census taker is to respond online, by phone, or by mail. Next, please. If you need to verify a census taker's identity, you can check to make sure they have a valid ID badge with their photograph, the U.S. Department of Commerce watermark, with an expiration date. Census workers may also carry bags and other equipment with the Census Bureau logo. Census employees will never ask for your Social Security number for money or for any financial numbers. If you still have questions about their identity, you may contact your regional census center that can be found on the link at the bottom of the slide. Okay, next please. So if you're curious about how many people in your community are responding to the 2020 census, please visit this website, 2020census.gov/response rate. You can stay up to date with the map of self-response rates from across the US. This map is updated daily, and you can compare to the 2010 census response rate. You can select down to your state, your city, your county, congressional district, and your census tract level. As you can see on the map on the left-hand side, the national self-response rate was over 58% as of May 10th. And you can see that most of the Midwest states are in the darker blue, and they are leading with the highest self-response rates right now. If you click over to where the red arrow is pointing to, you will see the screen on the right side. And this is the ranking. You will see the ranking and the number of households responding. And this is a great way to see the cities and counties in your state stack up to each other. As of Sunday, Washington County and Wisconsin had the highest rate of all the counties in the US. And then for city, North River City in North Dakota, they all fill out the census. So I was very curious about them. So I Googled them, and they are roughly about 25 homes there. So I can see how they got all 25 homes responded. Okay, next please. So this is a screenshot of the response rate if you choose to go all the way down to your census tract. And again, the census tract level is that's about your neighborhood, and they have up to 8,000 people. So this one, over 80%, almost 80% responded, and this is where I am living right now. Next, please. So on this slide, I have screenshots of 6 cities, and they were chosen by Lisa. So let's see, out of the 6 here, Los Angeles is last, but not by much. The next lowest is Baltimore. And then Houston is the next one, and Atlanta and Chicago. And Columbus is the highest rate right now. It has almost 55%. And I'm challenging all of you to beat your 2010 rates. Maybe you could do a friendly competition at your next NAEP meeting. Next, please. This is our adjusted operation schedule. As you can see, we extended our response rate phase from July 31st to October 31st. With this updated timeline, it is the sensibility assessment that we are unable to deliver the 2020 census results to the president by December 31st as required by the law. So we are asking Congress to extend 120 additional calendar days to deliver the final count to the president by April 30th, 2021. So we are resuming some 2020 census field operations in some areas of the country. Using a phased approach, we can resume operations in some areas earlier than others. If you want to see the full list of areas, please visit the link below. So our temporary field staff will resume dropping off the 2020 census questionnaire packets at front doors of households. Their work doesn't involve contact with the public. We are instructing census staff to not even to knock on the door. They will just simply leave the census packet. This operation is also known as update leave. It is done in areas where the majority of households do not receive mail at their home, and accounts for roughly 5% of the households. All workers are expected to be trained in CDC guidance in preventing the spread of COVID-19. And besides a new reusable face mask for every 10 days work and a pair of gloves for each workday, the Bureau has ordered hand sanitizer for each census worker conducting field operations. I want to emphasize that the health and safety of the public and our employees remains a top priority. Our activities will incorporate the most current guidance from the federal, state, and local officials. And please feel free to visit our link for more details. Okay, next please. So I've been talking a lot about the 2020 census, but I hope you all know that we do work the other 9 years, and we have over 130 surveys and programs. Over a couple of weeks ago, the Census Bureau released a new resource page to help federal agencies, businesses, and communities to make decisions on the COVID-19 related to the COVID-19 pandemic. This resource page will includes information on population demographics, economic indicators, and businesses for the nation, states, and counties. And I just checked this morning, we just added data on businesses without paid employees, and these would be your Uber drivers. So there's a lot of data on this page. As you can see, for the nation, the top line, we estimated almost 50 million of the population are age 65 years and older. And then there are almost 30 million people without healthcare right now. So here I selected New York County, and you can see the key facts such as total population, average household size, median age, and the percentage of people with internet at home. And I think it's about 85%. You can also see that 115,000 households are living below the poverty line for New York County, and about 101,000 households are receiving food stamps. And then there's a lot of business data there shown as well. So I'm done with my part. I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly to go over statistics in school.
All right, thank you. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so hi everybody. Like Jenny said, my name is Kimberly Glasgow, and I'll be just providing you with an overview of our Statistics in Schools program at the Census Bureau and how both educators and parents can use it to teach children about the 2020 census. Next slide, please. All right, so what is Statistics in Schools? So for those of you who have not heard of our program, it is a free educational program that was created by the Census Bureau, and it uses census data to create engaging classroom activities for students. Our activities are free, and they're online, and they're made by teachers for teachers, and they can be easily integrated into any classroom instruction. So in an increasingly data-driven world, our program resources can really help students develop statistical literacy in all subjects, starting in pre-K and going all the way through high school. Next slide, please. So what makes SIS unique? So number one, our resources are free. They can be found on our website, so census.gov/schools. There are over 100 resources, so if teachers or parents enjoy using the program, then there are plenty of activities and other resources to choose from. The second thing is it allows teachers and parents to be community driven. So a lot of our activities allow for parents or teachers to tailor it to their local community. So for example, students could compare data points in 4 states, then compare that data to their own state. And this keeps students engaged because they're learning about things that are relevant to their lives. And then lastly, the activities use real census data. So statistical literacy is an important skill for students to develop starting at a young age. So with our program, we offer activities and resources for children starting as young as age 2 to start introducing them to those concepts. In today's world, all jobs use data in some way, so it's an important skill for students to understand. And our program makes it easy for any teacher or parent to incorporate statistics into their lesson plans in a great appropriate way for their students. Next slide. All right, so SIS and the 2020 census. So with the 2020 census already underway, we have added a lot of new resources to our program to reach households through students and schools. So our resources have a two-part goal. So the first one, similar to all of our evergreen materials, these resources are really going to help bring data into the classroom and homes and promote statistical literacy for all ages. And the second goal is that 2020 specific materials all highlight why it's so important that everyone be counted in the 2020 census, especially children. If you think about it, by the next census, children who are now in kindergarten will be in high school. So this is a really once in a decade chance to help make sure that they have what they need to be successful. Next slide. So now I'm going to talk about why the 2020 census matters to schools in your community. So just by completing the 2020 census is an easy way to help shape the next 10 years for all children. Census responses inform decisions on the allocation of more than $675 billion in federal funds to states and communities. So that includes support for school programs such as special education grants to states, National School Lunch Program, Child Care and Development Block Grants, career and technical education, TANF, Head Start, and a lot more. Also affected, of course, are funds for services that influence student readiness for learning, such as child health programs and assistance with housing, heating, and food costs. Our hope is that once educators and parents really understand the importance of the 2020 census and how it relates directly to what they do every day, then they'll want to get involved and help us spread the word. A lot of the teachers that we work with to develop our 2020 materials were really surprised to hear that census responses impact all of these things. Next slide. All right, so now I'm going to briefly tell you all what is new for 2020. So again, all of our new materials are live on our website. We have also created a web page with information dedicated to parents and caregivers for using our materials at home and for teachers who are doing distance learning, which I'll get into on the next slide. But let's see, so our activities. So again, our activities are a big part of our program. So for 2020, we did add a lot more new activities, which brings our activities and resources to almost 200. They are all split out by grade bands. So there's pre-K, K through 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, etc., and also by geographic location. So we have resources for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and all other U.S. territories. And we have activities for, of course, students in the 50 states. So each activity includes a student worksheet and a teaching guide. So it makes it really easy for teachers and parents who are partaking, again, in distance learning or homeschooling to use. The teacher's guides are broken down in a way where you don't have to be an expert on statistics to be able to teach your students or children about the census. So maps. So in 2010, the classroom maps that we created were a really big hit with teachers. So we brought them back for 2020 with fresh data. We also have coloring sheets. So we recently partnered with Dr. Seuss, and we now have printable coloring sheets that highlight the importance of children being counted alongside well-known Dr. Seuss characters that are available on our website to be downloaded in the pre-K section. We have a really cool song and music video. So if you have any young children at home, I would definitely encourage you to go on our website, listen to the fun song that we created for young children called Everyone Counts. The song highlights key messages about the 2020 census. It's a great resource for young children and the adults in their home. And there's also an accompanying storybook called Everyone Counts that is available to download. They can color, there's some activities in it and things like that. Aside from that, we also have videos for all of the other age groups. So they're short informational videos, and they're a really great resource for teachers or parents to use alongside some of our activities. One important thing that I will note is that our 2020 activities are not specific to any single subject. They combine skills from a variety of subjects that are intended to be used in any classroom or again at home. teachers or parents who don't have any experience teaching statistics can follow right along with those teaching guides that go with every activity. And again, one of the new things that we've done with our program, because of the 2020 census, we've added pre-K materials, and then also materials for English language learners and resources for adults learning English as a second language as well. Next slide. All right, so again, at this time, we know parents and caregivers that are taking care of children in their homes are looking for ways to continue their learning and to keep them engaged. So this is why we created a page that highlights resources that can be used for at-home and distance learning. So if you go to, again, our website, census.gov/schools, there's going to be an orange banner when you go to that homepage, and it'll say, you can click here if you're a parent, caregiver, or teacher. You can click that, and it'll take you right to that home and distance learning activities. So some of the resources on that page include those videos that I just talked about, the story and activity book. Jenny showed you all the response rate maps, so that is really cool. Students and their families can join in from home by using that response rate map to explore how many people are responding to the 2020 census in their community. We also have fun facts, so they use statistics from the Census Bureau, and they tie them to holidays, anniversaries, and other observances, and they can be used at varying grade levels and across different subjects. And we've also added 4 toolkits for parents and caregivers with children from pre-K all the way through high school. So these toolkits make it really easy for adults to find age-appropriate activities that will keep their children engaged, and includes everything that they're going to need to get started. So for younger children, parents will find activities on topics such as transportation and counting, whereas older students can learn about topics like apportionment and, Constitution Day and how the census is in the Constitution, and then even use census data to decide what they might want to do after high school. So both adults and children can take advantage of this really great opportunity to learn together about their country, state, and even their local community. Next slide. So as you can see on this slide, there are many great benefits of using our materials. As I mentioned earlier, many of the teachers we have worked with throughout the development process were really surprised to hear how much census responses impact funding for things they need and use every day. So like teacher training programs, new technology for their classrooms, and things like that. Statistics in schools also brings the unique opportunity for students to use real life data, which brings relevancy to what they're learning. So definitely when speaking with teachers or education stakeholders in your network, I definitely encourage you all to highlight these points as some of the main reasons schools and teachers should start using our program and get other educators involved. Next slide. All right, so I do want to wrap up with the 3 important things that we want you to remember about the census, which are it's easy, it's safe, and it's important. We definitely want to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. And again, as Jenny mentioned, it's really never been easier to respond on your own, whether it's online, over the phone, or by mail, all without having to physically meet a census taker at your door. Next slide. All right, so definitely please feel free to connect with us on social media. You can see all of our social media platforms on this slide. The easiest way is to follow us and reshare our content to your audiences and use our 2020 census hashtag. Also, if you are interested in partnering with us, please visit the first link on this slide if you are a national organization, and then the second link if you're a state or local organization. And then lastly, if you have any questions in regards to partnership or the SIS program, definitely feel free to email Jenny if you have any further questions. Her email is on this slide as well. And thank you so much for your time. Hi, this is Kimberly again. So I'm reading some of the ones that are in regards to SIS in the chat, and I'm responding in the chat so everyone will be able to see.
Kimberly, if you're seeing questions in the chat, can you read them and respond to them so everyone can hear them?
Sure, no problem. So the first question I saw was from Natalie, and she said that how does the data, lesson plan, and activity website correlate with the U.S. Department of Education civil rights data collection that could speak to social justice lesson implementation? So our statistics and schools activities are based on relevant education standards and guidelines. So I can post the direct link to that so you can find more information about that on our website. But in regards to the 2020 census materials, they do not go by any like education standards. Again, they can be used with any subject, but we do have specific lessons on like diversity so if you go to census.gov/schools, there's like a 2020 census button. You kind of hover over that, and then you would click into 2020 resources, and then you'll be able to see the K through 12 or the pre-K. So if you go into K through 12, in the different grade bands, there's different activities in regards to diversity and race and things like that. Let's see.
I think Natalie had another question about being in the field.
Okay, so I see it says, okay, would Census 2020 be willing for educators in the field to contribute to this database of activities? If so, will there be a template available for use? So we have an SIS ambassador program. So before, all of this COVID stuff happened, we were heavily recruiting teachers in all 50 states, the island areas, and Puerto Rico to be basically the boots on the ground ambassadors for our SIS program in your communities, in your states, to, not only teach your students about the program and the census, but to help spread the word to other educators. So I can provide you with the email address if you're interested in that program and learning a little bit more about that. I can put that in the chat as well. That way, if you do have ideas of how you would want to implement SIS into your classroom, into your lessons, the SIS Ambassador Program would be the way to go.
That's great. And again, we're still taking questions in the chat and responding. And I think our chairman just returned. I did want to ask a bit about when you look at the SIS program for older high school students, what has been the response you've received from both educators and parents in engaging, especially in this stressful time?
So we haven't really heard anything necessarily from parents. We were just able to get that at home learning page up last month, and then we just were able to get our toolkits up for parents earlier this week. So now is where we're kind of really relying on, our national partners and things to really help spread the word, to get it out to parents to say, hey, this information is available to you. So please feel free to use it.
All right.
And just to remind, NAEP is a national partner, so we want everyone's input to be responsive.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
Thank you, Kimberly and Jenny. We will also try to make sure we provide the slides on the NAEP website, naepequity.org, and then you should be able to follow the link from there to the webinar slides. I can't see any more questions since I had to do a reboot with my computer. Lisa or Kimberly, are there other questions in the chat box that need to be answered?
I don't think I've seen any just yet, but I am going to share the SIS Ambassador email address. So again, if you all are interested in learning more about that, just send an email to that email address and someone will provide you with more information.
Also, if you have questions regarding census in your regional area, if you want to send an email to myself or Lisa, we can make sure that gets back to Kimberly and Jenny, and they can provide those other numbers for those folks in your region that you can connect with to get further assistance on the Census 2020. Anything else closing, Kimberly, from you?
I do not have anything. Thank you all so much for having us.
Well, it was a pleasure to have you too, and thank you so much for presenting. Lisa, thank you for your introduction and assistance through our technical issues. And on behalf of NAPE, thank you all, and please make sure to have the folks that are important to you and those that you interact with to complete the census for 2020. Thank you and have a wonderful day.